Hi, welcome to Bathtub. It's the old masturbator, Scott Bradfield. This is 2025. It's our first new. Is this our first one? No, it's not the first one we've taped in 2025. It's the second one or third one. But anyway, we're bathing with a vengeance. We're going to bathe with a vengeance this is our final hoedown here at the Bathtub. We're just going to go off into the sunset eventually. I'm hoping in 20 to 30, 40 years. In the increasingly perilous and smoky world we live in, and just spend a little time in the bathtub every day, reading for without profit or purpose, just to have a good time. I forgot we have a main thing. We're doing a classical gas today, but last week I did my favorite reads of 2025. I forgot a couple things. I forgot a book I didn't really talk about much, if at all, because it didn't really fit into our stuff. Biographies go really well in the bathtub. So I'm always reading biographies, and I try to bring them up when I can. This was one of my favorite. This is easily one of my favorites, maybe two or three favorite books of last year. The Godwins and the Shelleys by William St. Clair. I don't know anything else about William St. Clair except he did a terrific job on this biography of a family. William Godwin was the really important radical philosopher of the late 1700s who wrote a terrific thriller called Caleb Williams, which goes really well in the bathtub. It was a very kind of gothic, brilliant chase novel, which was clearly a big influence on Frankenstein, on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It's actually a much better read than Frankenstein. Mary Shelley was his daughter. He was married to a radical thinker and feminist, Mary Wollstonecraft, who died horribly in childbirth. So there's a horrible passage in what happened to her. And his daughter was Mary Shelley, who married the poet and very radical poet Percy Bysshe Shelley. I wanted to talk about him because I read his great political early poem, Queen Mab, this year. We never got around to talking about it. I'll bring it in soon. Anyway, this is a terrific biography if you're interested in radical politics and poetics. Radical poetics, late 1700s, early 1800s, and how all these different thinkers kind of came together. And Godwin was such a fascinating guy. He's always been one of my favorite literary figures. And it's about his history. He went on to become a bookseller and educator, and he was just a fascinating character. Anyway, this is a great read, great biography. It's immersive, and it came out in 1989. I'd always been meant to read it, and I read it last year. Terrific read. Also, this is, if I'm a masturbator, I really should be promoting my own books, and I keep forgetting to. So I got to remember that there's no purpose, and the show is pretty purposeless if I don't actually try to flog some of my books. I published one of my favorite I think it's a funny novel, On the Planet of Bold Women, in the year before last, but it's a great party gift, or parting gift when people leave your house, or party gift when they come to your house for a party, or birthdays, Christmases. I should have mentioned this is a great Christmas buy last year. And of course, we have the home edition of the Reading Great Books in the Bathtub. I mean, that really should have been on our list of Christmas books, shouldn't it? I mean, for next Christmas, save up your pennies. And this is the crossover, the play-at-home version of Reading Great Books in the Bathtub. And it's just some of our essays and reviews over the past 6 or 8 years. And many of the books that we featured on the Bathtub are available in this. You can buy it through buy any of these books through Amazon, which we hope you won't, but you can buy them from me directly. I don't know. I think I sell them to you at $12 a piece, signed and everything. So if you want one, just write me on the YouTube, and we'll arrange for me to send you one of these beautiful, beautiful self-published, vanity press publishes, expressing my vanity and my own love for my work, my recent novel. And also, I just got a box of these today. This is my rarest book. I think this is hard to find anywhere. And when I see it listed in books sections or in book sites, it's pretty expensive. Good Girl Wants It Bad. This is 2004. Does that look pretty? It looks like pretty shoddy. It was very. What do you call this? It's got a salacious cover. The editor put on a deliberately salacious cover with women's legs, and it's a kind of a crime comedy. It's pretty funny, I think. It's kind of horrific as well. Anyway, Good Girl Wants It Bad. I'll give you that for $15 signed if you want. I just got a box of them, so get your orders in now for next Christmas. Finally, let's get past the self-promotion part of this completely useless show. It's classical gas. You bring your own theme music. You got to play the David Mason song in your head, or you could play it on your computer while you're waiting to watch this stupid show. And we're going to do a classical gas where we review books and say if it's a yeah, if it's a nay, or if it's a hell yeah. Usually they're hell yeahs. We get into Henry James. We're a little bit hesitant to give the hell yeah. But we're going to talk about the ambassadors a little bit today. Not a lot. It comes from what's called the major phase. They call this, they have the early phase, the mid phase, and the major phase. The major phase is this book was published in 1903. It's one of his last 3 novels. It's considered by many one of his more difficult novels. The major phase is the more difficult of the books, just because all the stuff that drives you crazy about Henry James becomes even more intrepidly. The paragraphs are just endless. The skyscrapers like size paragraphs, and they're just wittering along sometimes with just long these periodic sentences of one phrase after another, qualifying every statement he makes. And it can drive you crazy a bit. I read this book many years ago for a reason which I will get to in a minute. It's not my favorite. My favorite phase of the Henry James writing is the mid phase. We've talked about Portrait of a Lady. I've reread this now twice. I've read this twice. It's got a hell yeah from us. And I also did another one, which I didn't like the first time, called The Princess Casamassima, which is considered his political novel. It's a weird novel. And I liked that a lot, too, the second time. The first time, I don't even remember reading it. Anyway, those are the ones that we really kind of give pretty strong recommendations to. The Ambassadors, the plot is about a man. I'll see if you recognize what book this influenced. It's about a man in his middle age who's been fairly successful, but not that successful in America, but people really like him. And he's about to get married to a woman, a fairly well-off woman, who wants him to go to Europe because her son, named Chad, went to Europe for a holiday and has gotten involved with somebody over in Europe and doesn't want to come home. And so she sends this guy, I think his name's Strether. I forget his name now. Something Strether, Leonard Strether, or it takes forever to find. His name's Strether. I forget his first name. Anyway, she sends this guy over to Europe. I don't think he's been to Europe before, or he hasn't spent a long time there. He goes over with a friend of his named Waymarsh, who's almost an invisible character in the book. And he loves Europe. And he goes to, they're in Paris. Is that where they go to? Paris? I can't remember. Anyway, they're in Paris. I just read the book a week ago. And he goes to meet Chad. And Chad has gotten involved with there's a woman who's got a young, beautiful daughter. And they think that Chad's over there flirting with the young daughter. But actually, he's flirting with the married mother. And not flirting. They're actually having sex. They're having an affair. And they're very deeply involved. And as Strether comes over there, he just loves Paris. He loves Europe. He has this great time, and he doesn't want to come home. And at one point, he's supposed to talk Chad into coming home, and he decides, no, I don't want him to come home, because the mother wants Chad to come back to America and marry a proper girl, and make some money and get his inheritance. That's the whole plot. It's basically like most James novels. It's the central character goes in and kind of analyzes and finds his way through all these different relationships. And there's certain characters who are sort of not as nice as others. There's not any really evil people in this one. Like there's like that evil, horrible husband in Portrait of a Lady. But he gets involved with them, and he eventually thinks it's really good that this guy's in Europe, and he wants to stay in Europe himself. Okay, so you know what it is. Okay, it was a big influence on Patricia Highsmith's Ripley novels. The very first Ripley novel is called The Talented Mr. Ripley. I couldn't find it. But this is a sequel, a later volume of the Ripley. And Ripley when Ripley goes over to Europe, he's reading The Ambassadors when he goes over there. And the whole thing is a joke, in a way, on the fact that these Americans are so sick of American culture. It's nothing but money. It's nothing but industry. It's nothing but how much money you make and what's going on. And it's kind of the interesting parts of American culture for James are the women, the feminine culture, and the men are just ciphers, just their machinery. They're robots running around making money. So anyway, the Ripley books are sort of a funny joke on it, in the sense that Ripley goes over to help bring back that man's son, and he gets involved over there, and of course he has to kill everybody so he can stay. Strether doesn't kill anybody, but he does betray the woman he's supposed to marry, and that's about the entire plot. I found it a little slow going both times I read it. I read it this time partly over Christmas, partly over the holidays. I'll just give you a little bit of a passage. This is dialogue. There's not enough dialogue in most of James's books, and I'm going to read you a more interesting paragraph. There's lots of just kind of analysis of the characters analyzing things, and it's told from this kind of omniscient point of view, which I don't like that point of view anyway. But this is a scene between Strether and Chad, and this is about as close as we get to having Strether explain why he loves Europe. And Chad, they're having a confrontation, and Chad says, "You feel," Chad asked in a tone of his own, "the charm of life over here?" "Immensely." Strether faced it. "You've helped me so to feel it that surely needn't surprise you." "No, it doesn't surprise me, and I'm delighted. But what, my dear Mad," Chad went on with conscious queerness, "does it all lead to for you?" The change of position and of relation for each was so oddly betrayed in the question that Chad laughed out as soon as he had uttered it, which made Strether also laugh. "Well, to my having a certitude that has been tested, that has passed through the fire, but oh," he couldn't help breaking out, "if within my first month here you had been willing to move with me." So if Chad had gone home earlier, Strether might have gone with him. "Well," said Chad, while he broke down as for weight of thought, "well, we should have been over there by now." "Ah, but you wouldn't have had your fun." So it's a very interesting book to me. Again, James is one of the first famous expatriates who goes to Europe, and I still in many ways feel like an expatriate. I moved to Europe in my late 20s and stayed there for the most part until about 6 or 8 years ago. And the love of Europe and the love of this certain different type of life is apparent in this book. It's about the relationships of this kind of upper middle class crust, this upper middle class social network where everybody kind of interested in art and beauty and paintings and music, and they have a cultural life and a social life, and that's all the stuff that Strether likes. And he's really fascinated by the woman that Chad is going out with, a married woman whose husband, I don't think her husband even shows up in this, and her beautiful daughter. That's the whole story. I can't remember much more than that. Anyway, if you're interested in James, I think we haven't read the other two. I've never read the last two novels, which are Wings of a Dove and The Golden Bowl. I do want to get to those, but I haven't read many of the late stories. James writes a lot about his relief that he left America in a short story called The Jolly Corner, which is a very good it's an interesting little ghost story. I don't say it's really good, but again, I would give this a yeah. I wouldn't give it a hell yeah, but it's one of those books that sort of sticks with me. On this, hell yeah, though. I mean, it's not a classical gas, but Good Girl Wants It Bad, and of course the bathtub crossover edition. You should be giving this to your friends. You should be telling them about the bathtub, because there's nothing finer than to be in Carolina in the bathtub. Okay, stay safe. We're gonna do a couple more of these. Henry James, we're in late in life, kind of, we're bathing with a vengeance, and that includes Henry James. Stay safe. Don't let the world bother you too much. Keep dry. Stay away from the smoke.